We'll talk a bit more about Myanmar and the fate of Aung San Suu Kyi with France 24's Philip Turle. Philip, for many years, Aung San Suu Kyi was seen as an icon of democracy around the world. She won the Nobel Peace Prize, but her reputation has become a bit tarnished in recent years. Tell us about that and if the West will come to her rescue now.
Well, let's say they're slightly less inclined to look favourably on Aung San Suu Kyi than they would have done prior to 2016 and the crackdown against Rohingya Muslims by the Burmese army. The United Nations estimates that at least 10,000 people have been killed in that crackdown, which has been basically dismissed by Aung San Suu Kyi as being an iceberg of misinformation and saying that the problems in that region were due to terrorists. So she's been stripped of some of the prestigious awards that she was handed over the years, especially while she was under house arrest for 15 years before taking over with her National League of Democracy from 2015. Now, the EU and Britain have condemned what has happened over the past 24 hours in Myanmar, as has the United States, which has threatened to reintroduce sanctions. But there's been a much more muted response from both China and Russia. China, which has interests in Myanmar, they're basically saying that this should be settled internally and it's not a matter that the international community should get involved in within Myanmar itself. So the bottom line here is what is going to happen to Aung San Suu Kyi. Some analysts are saying that she's not to blame for the situation. She was just trying to keep the military in her support base by backing them during this clampdown against Rohingya Muslims. Others are saying, well, she has got some anti-Muslim feelings herself, and that explains why she was dismissing these reports of human rights abuses there. But at the end of the day, the condemnation that she has received from the West has also undermined her support, and that may have been one of the contributing factors behind the military's decision to launch this coup attempt, saying, well, if we do overthrow Aung San Suu Kyi and complain about her election victory as being fraudulent, then the West is not going to come to her rescue, and therefore we have more chance of pulling this off.
Philip, what about at home, though? Inside Myanmar, she's still very much loved.
Yes, that is true. If you look at some of the opinion polls, there's one by the People's Alliance for Credible Elections, which is an election watchdog, which found that in 2020, 79% of people in Myanmar had trust in her. That was up from 70% in 2019. She remains enormously popular amongst the regular citizens in Myanmar, particularly amongst the Buddhist majority who have little sympathy for the Rohingya Muslims. And you have to remember that last November, the National League for Democracy claimed to have won far more than the 322 seats needed to form a majority in Parliament, potentially even more than 390 seats that it took in the 2015 landslide. So more proof that Aung San Suu Kyi and her National League for Democracy are very popular. And I think a much more rude awakening now that she's been taken away from power and the military is back in power. And we seem to be back into the dark old days of military power in Myanmar and democracy swept away for the time being.
Philip, thank you for that. France 24's Philip Turle.